Okay. Good morning, everybody. Glad to see you. So everybody's showing up late these days. Used to be people started showing up at 7:45. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Do we have anybody new joining us today? Matthew, you are, but you're going to get to do your thing in just a little while. Anybody else? Bill, did you introduce yourself last time, the Augustino? Bill, are you there? Okay, well, we're going to move on. And so want to, as always, to thank our sponsors, Care First the Health Plan, Karen Ziegler Consulting Services, Valley Telecom Group, Khajiit, and Triad Wireless. So thank you guys for the support. And moving on to the agenda this morning. Sandeep, I see you're online. So you want to give us an update on what's happening? And I know Aaron's online also.
Hi, Steve. I joined as well.
Yeah. Oh, and who is that?
Bill D'Agostino.
Oh, yeah. So Bill, do you want to just introduce yourself real quickly?
Sure. I'm Bill D'Agostino. I'm with the Wireless Infrastructure Association, an industry group that brings together the ecosystem for the wireless ecosystem and advocates on their behalf. And
Excuse me. Okay. We'll want to hear some more from you in just a little while, Bill. But thanks for joining us. Anybody else who's new? If not, Sandeep, you want to share, please? Give us an update, please.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Steve. My name is Sandeep Bhomik, State Broadband Director at Arizona Commerce Authority. We have some exciting update this week. Those who you know about our state-owned middle mile network, which is on I-17, I-19, and I-40. I-40 is currently under construction. So I-17 and I-19, almost 14 months ago, we published an RFQ to select a vendor who will be managing this network for next 25 years. After long negotiation and RFQ evaluation process, we actually signed a contract last week with EX2 Technology. EX2 Technology will be managing this network for next 25 years for the state of Arizona. It was a tri-party contract signed with ACA ADOT one side and EX2 Technology on other side. You might saw some press release on the website and the LinkedIn page, but you will see more press release in coming weeks and months. We're still on the move to figure out a few more technical nitty-gritties of the contract. And very soon, we are hoping before we open the bid sub-grantee selection process in August, we'll be able to publish the pricing, point of contact, and any kind of technical specification of the whole network for I-17 and I-19. So we are very proud for this partnership and looking forward to talk more about this middle mile network. And another very important thing State Broadband Office is currently administering is the challenge process. So if you are a local government or you are from ISP or nonprofit, you can still register and submit a challenge. There are only 2 weeks left after this week. And if you have any question, there is the last set of webinar happening next week, and we are open to set up any office hours. So that's a quick brief update on our side, Steve.
Sure. So Sandy, just quickly explain to people about the office hours. I think most people have heard, but I know we have some new people. So could you explain that quickly?
Sure. So if you go to our challenge process website, every Tuesday we hold four office hours. So it's Tuesday 2 to 4, and every office hour is for 30 minutes. So you can go ahead, and it's an open calendar. So you can go ahead and actually book that office hour. Any question related to the challenge process, a viability of the challenge process, or if you have any issue with the portal registration, we will be there to help you all. So Erin just posted the link, so you can go there and book office hours. All the office hours are going to be for 30 minutes. If you need additional help, you're most welcome to send us an email. And if you think that it's more than 30 minutes, we'll be able to set up a separate call or meeting.
Great, thanks, Sandeep. Any questions for Sandeep? As always, Sandeep, we appreciate you taking time. I know you're a busy guy, but appreciate you taking time to be here. And
No worries, Steve. With that, I would like to invite my colleague Erin to update regarding digital equity.
Actually, Sandeep, before you move on, and I think you announced this last week, but so you have a new deputy director now, is that right?
Yes, we have a new deputy director, as we announced that last week, I assume. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Aaron, you have anything you need to talk about this morning?
Not a lot of updates from me. First of all, my name is Erin Lorandos. I'm the Digital Equity Program Manager. I get to work with Sandeep in the ACA in the broadband office, and not a ton to update. We're still working on our application at the state level for the capacity grant from NTIA. This is the money that has been allocated to implement the digital equity plan that was approved early last month. But I did want to just share a link to a survey again. We have, as we're thinking through our capacity application, we realized that it would be really helpful for us as an office to get an idea, just really preliminary information from organizations across the state that might be interested in applying for a subgrant from us. And so we put together a brief survey just to kind of gauge interest and start to get folks thinking about what they might apply for. This is not a requirement in any way, shape, or form to apply for a subgrant from us in the future. We're just trying to get an idea of what people might be thinking about. So I wanted to share that link, and I know Steve, you probably have got it in the weekly update email as well, because you're so great at sending everything back out. But just for context, that's what that is. It is open for the next week and a half or so through the 10th. And really that's just so that we can get an idea before we have to apply for the capacity funds. As I mentioned, this is not a requirement in any way. And the subgrant process isn't going to open till the fall. So it's entirely possible that organizations haven't even thought about these things yet. But I figured if they are thinking about it, it would be helpful for me to know. So let me know if there are any questions about that or anything else that I can provide.
Actually, Aaron, I don't think I did include the survey information.
Oh my goodness. Well, everyone in this call, if you've been to one of our webinars through the State Broadband Office, you will be receiving our very first newsletter this week, and it will be in there as well. So if you end up not grabbing it out of the chat, or emails get crossed, you'll get a copy shortly anyway, along with a lot of other really great information in our very first newsletter.
Sounds great. Thanks, Aaron.
Of course. Thank
you.
you.
Any questions for Aaron before we move on? So I just want to, Nicole, I don't believe Nicole's online today.
So Nicole sent you an email.
Okay.
I was copied with some updates.
Okay.
Do you want me to?
Sure, go ahead.
Where did I put it? Gotta find it. Just a second.
Was it an email or a text?
It was an email.
Okay.
One is that the NTIA did issue a report. I'll put it in the chat in a minute. Here it is. The NTIA Office of Internet Connectivity and Growth issued an annual report on everything they've been doing. I'm going to put that in the chat first from her message. I did download it the other day. Good stuff. For the Tribal Broadband Connectivity Program, which had in its round 2 $980 million in funding, 160 applications totaling more than $2.64 billion were received from tribal and tribal related entities and awards against that. So that's about a 2.5x, 2.8x oversubscription, not unusual. Awards expected before the end of the year. And in recognition of Second Chance Month, NTIA hosted a webinar, The Impact of High-Speed Internet Access on Incarcerated and Justice Impact Individuals. There's a link for the playback of that. And the Biden administration announced a $30 million investment to support interagency coordination of federal permitting. There's a link for that. So Steve, you may want to roll those other links into your
Sure.
newsletter or
Absolutely.
not.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate that. And then moving on. So Aaron, you guys have some events coming up in May, local government, tribal communities, and so forth. You want to talk about that real quickly?
Sure. So if I can, yeah, I just wanted to make sure I'm thinking of the right things. Yes, every month our office does host roundtable webinars. Right now they are pretty well focused on the BEAD challenge process, just because that's the kind of the big thing that's happening right now. So those dates and times you'll see in Steve's agenda here, and then you can register for those through our website as well.
So Aaron, if I understand correctly, you prefer that if you're not associated with with a particular topic, that you not attend the meeting. Is that correct or not?
Most of them, the idea is to make a space for those organizations and entities that, are connected to those organizations to have space. It's really important to give space for folks. I think that most people who are in this group will find themselves in one or more of those groups. If you're not directly connected to any of those and are interested, in the BEAD challenge process specifically, I think the office hours might be helpful for you, or just email us and let us know how we can help. The digital equity roundtables, which have kind of been a little bit on pause just as we're in between processes, are definitely open to anyone. So that's another opportunity, and we'll start those back up in June.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, any questions for Aaron? All righty, so let's move on with a couple of things. Elena, you want to talk about the Action Not Apologies campaign that you guys got going on, and anything else? You're kind of in touch with a lot of things.
Yeah, sure, Steve. I'll try to be quick, but there's a lot going on. So Common Sense did launch a campaign around, it's been 3 months since the hearing with some of the large leaders of tech companies, where they basically said that, yes, their platforms are not being responsible. So we launched a campaign around that. We're looking for people to sign on, and I'll get that link and put it in the chat. That's something on the Common Sense side, but Steve, I was kind of more prepared to talk about all the stuff that's happening nationally with regard to ACP. So I have a laundry list of things, but I'm happy to talk more about the campaign later. Yeah. So there was a rally held in DC for the ACP extension on Tuesday, which was the day before the benefits were to expire, which was yesterday. The rally was co-sponsored by Public Knowledge and Common Sense and other advocates for the ACP. There were senators that spoke, and it was really just more of a show of support for some things that are happening. The full ACP benefit expired. So that was yesterday, and within the month of May, about 23 million families across the US, 525,000 here in Arizona, will need to notify their provider about whether they're able to afford to continue their internet subscription at the higher price, because they are going to see sticker shock, or opt out and possibly face disconnection. I will say that there are a number of ISPs, which we've talked about on this call, who are providing either assistance to stay connected through their eligibility for ACP. So they have to, obviously, folks will have to call their ISP and see if that low cost option is available to them. There are some websites out there that have other low cost options. If you know anybody that's, you know, going to be disconnected or can't afford their internet, please let me know, or you can send them to Connect Arizona's website, which has a list of some providers, other providers, and we've heard on this call, other providers are developing other low cost options to try to keep people on, you know, online. But the fact of the matter is that, you know, when people get their bills and their bills have now shot up to whatever, we all know internet is expensive. And so a lot of them may just say, you know, forget it. I'm not gonna do this. And we're right back to, you know, pandemic era, you know, kids doing their homework in parking lots situation. So this is a big deal. Now, Senator John Fetterman, who is from Pennsylvania, he did introduce a bill that would fold the ACP into an existing FCC subsidy. Fetterman's bill would tap broadband providers and tech companies to pay for the extension. Don't know where that's going to go. There's a lot of tech lobbyists in Washington, so my guess is that that's going to be a you know, a significant fight if it even, you know, makes it to the floor. It's in, you know, it's in committees right now. The other big deal is that the Spectrum bill is being pulled, or was pulled from yesterday's markup hearing, because they can't find a Republican to co-sponsor it. So it's
Excuse
really
me,
kind of,
Elaine, you want to explain to people what the Spectrum bill is?
yes, well, actually, it basically is for auctioning off. Well, I don't want to misspeak, and I'm not. Brenna knows a lot more about the bill than I.
It is simply, this is Mark, it's simply, it reauthorizes the FCC,
Yes.
whose authorization has expired, to auction spectrum
Auction
again.
off.
And there is a
Yes.
$7 billion set aside from the monies they would receive.
For ACP.
Last I heard, that
Yep.
is targeted to ACP support.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I didn't know how deep you wanted me to go into that. I could have just said it's the auction bill, the Spectrum auction bill being reintroduced. But yes, Mark is correct. And it originally was $5 billion, and they upped it just last week or early this week to the $7 billion that was actually needed to extend the ACP program. So it's kind of TBD on if it gets included. There's an FAA bill out there that's moving ahead, and Washington is a weird place. Bills get tacked on to all kinds of stuff, even if it doesn't appear to make sense that it's there. But anyway, the other thing is we have a discharge petition, I'm sorry, for the ACP Extension Act, but that petition has been delayed. A discharge petition would force a House vote on the $7 billion Extension Act. People can still sign on to it. It's still out there. It's just kind of hanging out there until they can find the Republican support. There are 230 congressional leaders, including those in Arizona, who have showed their support and are co-sponsoring the ACP Extension Act. So now these same leaders need to obviously sign the discharge position. I don't know why I can't say petition. I think it's just too early for these meetings, Steve. So that would ensure that the bill goes to the House floor for a vote. So there is a lot going on, and it's all moving like simultaneously. And so it's a little hard to keep up on everything. But I think at the end of the day, here's what's really interesting. All of this effort and all of this attention to the ACP Extension Act, we're looking at $7 billion just to continue ACP until the end of the year. We're in May already. And so this is how slowly things move in Washington. by the time anything happens, if it's going to happen around ACP, it will probably not get signed into, you know, whatever until like June. So we're looking at just through the end of the year and another fight come January. And it's an election year. So this is, you know, we're pushing for it, we're supporting it. Something is better than nothing mentality is kind of what's out there. But at the end of the day, it's going to be either USF reform or some other, you know, some other mechanism to fund an ACP-like program. So just, you know, keep that in mind. I mean, all the work that was done by all the wonderful organizations to help people get internet, you know, there's so much that has happened since last year that it's going to be really difficult to get people to trust, you know, continued sign up of, you know, an ACP like program. So it's just hard. It's just right now, everything is really hard. And so if you have questions, let me know. I'm not there on the Hill with like my colleagues are, you know, Brenna, who you met, is in DC, as well as Amina, who you've also met. So I'm happy to relay questions to them if you have anything specific.
Okay, thank you, Elena. Anybody have any questions for Elena?
This is Marla. Elena, I just wanted to know if there was any progress made in rolling Lifeline in and ACP together.
There hasn't really been any significant talk about that, Mala. I think it's because there's such a difference between Lifeline and ACP that I think they're trying not to confuse the matter. Lifeline is $9.95. The eligibility is different. It's funded through a different mechanism. So there hasn't been a lot of talk about Lifeline, except for a lot of the CBOs and the folks on the ground that know that there is this other program that they could possibly move folks to that, but it's very convoluted right now.
Right, that's kind of my thinking too. Senator Cruz seems to be hell-bent on trying to avoid duplication, and this is one area that was his suggestion.
Yeah, and a lot of that is because they don't understand how it's funded, or they don't understand the process by which the money, you know, is from an eligibility standpoint. They just assume like, oh, here's another program that you can at least save $10 on your bill. And frankly, that was sort of the old program, you know, free phones, that era, you know, pre-pandemic.
Exactly.
And so it's just not the same program. It's not, and there's not enough money. I mean, if you think about it, the USF funding mechanism is worse off, you know, now than it was 5 years ago, because, you know, it's funded by landlines primarily, and nobody has landlines anymore. So it's just the whole thing is a very convoluted situation, and USF reform is going to happen, but it's not going to happen for quite a while. And when it, you know, that's going to be a whole nother conversation. So yeah.
And the top of the layer is the election year, and so everything.
So either nothing can happen, or everything's going to try to happen, and it'll be for you know, it'll be for a political, you know, gain or whatever. So yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Elena? So Bill D'Agostino, if I can put you on the spot, do you have any thoughts about, from the Wireless Association perspective, about ACP?
I mean, at this point, no.
Okay, that was quick. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to our presentation today. I'm really pleased to welcome Matthew Sukadolski. Is that how you pronounce your name, Matthew?
Yeah, I guess it all depends on time and place. Sometimes Smith is appropriate, and sometimes Sachadolski works as well. I'll discard the hard CH sound from the old country, okay?
Okay, so just recently, Matthew had a great conversation with him, and he's the general field representative regarding telecom here in Arizona for for USDA. And USDA, many of you have heard USDA and know that they have some programs, but may not really know about what options and opportunities there are. So Bill has agreed to give us an update on what's happening with USDA. And so, Bill, I'm going to stop sharing, and I know you got a document that you want to share.
Sure, sure. And thank you for the invitation today, Steve. Much appreciated. And it's 31 participants altogether here. So that's a good crowd. You have a good crowd here. So
Yep.
thank you all for the opportunity to participate today. And let's see if I can get this screen share going properly. Is that taking on everyone's screen at home?
Yep.
All right. All right. So, yeah, good afternoon. Matthew Suchadolski, as Steve has said. I'm currently serving as the General Field Representative on behalf of the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Rural Utility Service, which gets split into two. There's the electric side, and then there is the telecommunications side. I work on the telecommunications side. I've been in the position since August of 2023, not all that long. I am subject to a mentorship program, so I'm learning from some colleagues and some peers at USDA or US. It's very much a team approach. Let's see, and let's talk about some background here. Enough about Mr. Suchadolski. He's just a public servant here. So we have some background on the Rural Utilities Service infrastructure, whether it be, water treatment, water lines, telephone lines, broadband lines. And of course, a little bit of history here. Rural Utility Service stems back to 1935, the Rural Electrification Act, which really changed the way rural U.S. operates on the world stage. And here I'm going to give a little bit of a summary on our Rural Utility Service programs, funding programs. And of course, we have the mission statement here, improving the quality of life, deployment of rural telecommunications infrastructure. And within USDA, as a department, over 100,000 employees, there are three key priorities with the administration these days. And as you can see, climate change, and of course, the human factor of climate change, environmental justice, advancing racial justice, place-based equity, very important in Arizona, and opportunity, and then creating more and better market opportunities. So there's about 5 or 6 programs that USDA has, USDA or US has funding for. One of which is the telecommunications infrastructure loan and loan guarantees. The regulations for those are governed by Code of Federal Regulations, Section 7, 1735. It helps private and nonprofit providers. 2 key terms there, right? When we get into the world of grants, we often see that the private sector does not always qualify as an eligible applicant within the the federal grant loan world, but in this case, it does. And you can see the various uses of these loans and loan guarantees, and of course, you have some live links there to obtain some more information, and we should be able to share this slide set afterwards. There are rural broadband loans, grant loan combinations, and loan guarantees. This is a little different, and it's governed by the Agricultural Act of 2014. Good for construction, to support construction, improvement, acquisition of facilities for broadband. And certain steps need to be taken with acquisition. This is typically the organizations that are using these loans, loan guarantees, and loan grant combinations are typically small-scale telecom providers. I noticed that Valley Telecom is one of your supporters, one of your sponsors. We happen to work with Valley Telecom on a infrastructure loan these days. Of which the service area spans both New Mexico and Arizona. There's also the Reconnect loan and grant program. Reconnect started as a pilot program a few years ago and was expanded by certain bills as the IIJA and the bipartisan infrastructure law. Some of that Washington, D.C. alphabet soup of bills there. Those bills were pretty much one-time legislative measures to get dollars out there post-COVID for, a range of activities, of which broadband is a very important one. So you can see the core dynamics here of the Reconnect program. There is the application round 5 is currently open and ends a little later this month. So we expect to see some intake from Arizona stakeholders on that in one way, shape, or form. There is also the Community Connect program, and that provides financial assistance for community-oriented connectivity. And this is more of a, supports more of a small-scale grassroots approach. And it helps rural communities extend access where broadband service is least likely to be commercially available. I think that's a key term there, least likely to be commercially available, but where it can make a tremendous difference. There are, and that set there covers USDA Rural Utility Services infrastructure grants on the telecom side. Those are typically larger grants and loans. They can be $1 million. For example, we're currently working with a Community Connect program with the Navajo Tribal Utility Authority. It's a $1.3 million project. When that is compared with some of their Reconnect projects that emanated under the BIL and the IAJA, those projects are much larger. Tejano Nation is working on a $26 million grant to install to have increased broadband access within its tribal territory. So anyway, enough of that segue, and I'm going to jump over to 2 of the capacity building programs that USDA offers for broadband, or US offers for broadband. And I'm going to presume folks are familiar with these 2. One is the distance learning and telemedicine grants. These are typically for school districts, hospitals, healthcare facilities. And I've, since being with USDA for just over a half a year here, I've seen a strong impact with these. One being Benson Hospital, and a current grant with Summit Healthcare System up in Shola. The interesting part with the Summit Healthcare case is that they have been able to receive about $700K from USDA RUS for equipment, teleparts, and they are combining that, not literally combining it, but pairing it up with a $1 million Department of Health and Human Service Award. So the HHS funding as designed is to be utilized over a 5-year take. The distance learning telemedicine grant is over a 3-year take. And the good work of that stakeholder will use the DHHS funding for programming, and of course, the USDA funding for further equipping their facilities, and I'll use that in the plural sense. The whole distance learning telemedicine grant program, when implemented, is predicated upon a centralized hub, and then spokes extending out from that from various remote sites. I believe with the Cobra Valley Regional Medical Center case, I believe they have their hub facility and then 4 or 5 remote sites that they work with, some of which are a 2-hour journey away. We saw with the Benson Hospital case a strong partnership with Tucson Medical Center. So literally, there are patients that can be in Benson and get direct, personalized, one-to-one service with a doctor or a healthcare advisor under the Tucson Medical Center. Really enlivening to see those come into action and play when they get implemented, and the final reports to read on them are great. They really warm the heart per se, doing good work. There is also the Broadband Technical Assistance Program. This is one I would like to draw folks' focus to. It helps, it's capacity building. It's an opportunity to obtain some funding to do some substantial groundwork. The feasibility studies, the evaluations that will help take an organization to that next level. And there's an added bonus here that the key term here being the financial assistance comes in the form of a cooperative agreement. In the world of federal language, a cooperative agreement means that the funding agency may have a substantial level of input into the project. So it's a partnership between the awardee to an extent and, expertise coming from the federal awarding agency to further uplift that capacity building. And I'm going to round it out here. And of course, we're going to show a map. And you can see the various bluish gray, light green, and yellow areas. These are all active projects in Arizona at this time relative to infrastructure enhancement. Again, the construction-related programs that the slideshow started off with. This is the treasure map of those projects. You can see the blue polygon up in the right there, up on the Navajo Nation. That's a Community Connect project. You can see the yellow and grayish blue for the Tohono Nation, as well as we have a cross-border project there with the Fort Mojave group, that larger green area on the upper left. And I'll conclude there, and I would wish to thank you all for this. It's a little early, I'm a little rusty, and this is in fact my first presentation to a public body, to a public group with USDA. So if I'm not totally polished, please forgive me for that. But just wanted to get this information out. Steve approached me, and again, it's really great to share this information with you today. A little bit on the position of a general field rep. We work for the national office, and almost every state has a GFR. Some are doing double time with various states. You can see our management team there consisting of Shannon, Chris, and some of you may be familiar with the name of Brian Smith. He currently serves as the branch chief for the Southern Division, basically the West Coast and the Mountain States. GFRs come in two varieties, state GFRs and reconnect GFRs. The GFR, please use the resource. It's there for you. The federal government provides the resource of that person and capacity to help stakeholders of any shape or form navigate application processes through technical assistance, not strategic assistance, but technical assistance, as well as some, grant management duties. And that is that's pretty much the full and complete conclusion, Steve. And again,
Good job, Matthew.
Network
You did a
members.
great job for your first time out as a public presentation. So thank you for being here. You know, as you know, there's been lots of talk recently, rightfully so, about BEAD, but many of you may not even be aware that about USDA and USDA resources. And Mala, when I was talking to Matthew, I mentioned the projects that you're working on with the libraries, and you might want to take a minute to give him a little more detail about that.
Right. I already chatted with him privately to say, here's my contact information, and I'd love to talk to you as soon as you're done with this, with our meeting. Yes.
I knew you were going to do that, Mala. But immediately when I was talking with him, I knew that this was something that you were going to have some interest in.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I was going to ask a question of Matthew. With, the rural utilities service, you're saying climate change is a big priority. Are you looking at the joint development of electric power and telecom infrastructure with electric utilities so that, because there's going to be a growing demand for electric power with electric vehicles and electrification, and electric infrastructure could be deployed jointly with fiber infrastructure. Is that something that you're considering at the RUS?
Well, RUS does, I think just before the Biden administration came in a couple years ago, RUS or USDA was very big on the so-called dig once approach, right? So if we, if there is a water line or wastewater line issue, they were urging federal agencies to work in partnership to support multiple types of infrastructure within one construction project, right? Great aspiration. Try to fully implement that clean and smooth. That's another story. I have yet to hear from the appropriators through their messaging, public facing messaging about that combination, that linkage, right? Because they are related, of course. But I have yet to hear any of that, and maybe we'll see the appropriators looking toward that in the near future. I'm a friendly, helpful staffer. I am far down the ladder from the appropriators, so you'll know about it when I know about it as well. But it's interesting that you asked that, because I saw a bit of a debate on LinkedIn about a week ago, relative, and an individual made a statement that said broadband is going to be more important than electricity, which is an interesting statement, but I think somewhat relates to what you're asking, right? The two are entwined, but I have not seen specific funding programs yet that fully encourage that.
Okay, it's interesting. So nobody's actually pursuing that route, but yet it's critical for the addressing climate change. So, I'm just wondering who in the federal government is considering all this, because I haven't seen it discussed properly, and it's critical for addressing the climate issue.
Henry, this is Mark. What I am seeing across NTIA and USDA grant opportunities is the requirement that climate resiliency of your planned networks be detailed and anticipated and finessed in how your designs are going. So, if you're going to put something right on the shoreline, you better have it up on a 10-foot concrete pier because of sea rise, or higher winds or precipitation, need to be anticipated in aerial fiber deployment and how it's anchored, and all sorts of things fall under this climate resiliency. So there has definitely been a drive in all the grant programs to bake in improved and anticipating and recurring periodic plan upgrades and reports on the climate resiliency of these networks.
Yeah, I saw that in the BEAD requirements, NOFO requirements, but it isn't really getting at the big issue, which is
No.
the whole electric power network needs to be upgraded. So
And there are separate smart grid programs, but obviously you're right, the kind of dig once or dual use of deployment should absolutely be encouraged.
Okay, we're ready to move on. Any other questions for Matthew? If not, Matthew, thanks for being here, and hopefully we'll see you regularly.
Steve and the team at the network, thank you for the time and the attention today. Very much appreciated, and I hope we build some contact and bridges here. Thank you.
You bet. So Bill DeAugustino, so I guess I put you on the spot for something you weren't ready to talk about, but you might want to. I saw the information in the chat, so you're really focused on workforce development. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. My role is to support the leadership at WIA and help them with our outreach to the states to really focus in three main areas. What we call the TIRAP program, which is the Telecommunications Industry Registered Apprenticeship Program. The Telecommunications Education Center that's powered by WIA and all of the materials that exist there. And then workforce services around federal and state partnerships, building sector-based partnerships as part of the BEAD program. WIA is a workforce sector partner in a number of places. One of the programs that, and I won't go into a lot of detail about it here, but there's a very successful model that's operating in the state of Ohio. And we were selected there as the industry intermediary to lead the broadband and 5G sector partnerships. So we're working closely with the governor's office, bringing our expertise and the resources of the wireless industry together with strategies of the state to help accelerate the broadband deployment there.
Thank you, Bill. Any questions for Bill? Okay, so Paul Ross. Oh, Kenneth, you have Kenneth Kim. You have a question or comment?
Oh, there we go. Sorry. Just a quick comment, just to verify, is the WIA, that's the Workforce Initiative Act, right? That's now WIOA, is that correct?
No, sir. WIA is the Wireless Infrastructure Association. It's the industry association that lobbies on behalf of the wireless carriers, infrastructure owners, the tower owners,
Got
and
it.
all of the service providers.
Thank you for clarifying that, because I was like, WIA means something else for me. So I was
Right,
needed to clarify. Thank you. That's
right.
my only question.
So Paul Ross, you've had some interesting visitors recently. You want to talk about that experience, please?
Yes, I did have an interesting experience visit last week. It was great. It was an opportunity to
Excuse me, Paul, you want to introduce yourself real quickly? And-
yeah, sure.
All right.
It's been a little bit. Hey, Paul Ross. I'm the associate VP CIO at Phoenix College, and I'm currently administering an NTIA Connecting Minority Communities grant. So yeah, so I'm here in Phoenix. So yes, last week we had a visit from the Deputy Secretary of Commerce, and he was actually on campus for about 2 hours, which was fantastic. Came up to see what we've been doing with our CMC program, and we had a nice tour of a facility that we've set up as part of the grant, but also had a panel, and that panel consisted of students, some business representation, education, and it was just a really good discussion. But yes, planning for a deputy secretary visit, that requires quite a bit of work. And we got a lot done, and it actually was covered. And a few students have been interviewed as a subsequent follow-up. And so I think there'll be a little bit more to come. But yeah, Don Graves, he was great. It was great to have a little almost one-on-one discussion with him, so to speak, on the side, and also with the NTIA representatives. And Nicole was there as well, and Aaron was there too, and so there was quite a few people there. And but yes, very well attended. Everyone thought it went extremely well. We set up a computer lab with and telecommunications equipment end to end for students to be able to test, and it's just the start of it. And we also have a 3D printer for every workstation in the room, and mobile workstations as well. So that way students can actually explore their ideas and not necessarily have to wait for, like, a typical computer lab might have one or two 3D printers, right? We've got a lot of them. And so that way students can really flex their creativity, as well as using the mobile workstations, and actually get hands-on experience with configuring wireless telecommunications equipment that we have as well. So a lot happening.
Cool. Congratulations, Paul.
Thank you.
Very exciting, and glad to have you back. We've missed you.
Yeah, I've had too many conflicts for a while, and so I was able to finally squeeze and move things around. So I'm glad to be back.
Well, I do want to have a conversation with you. I would like to put together a panel soon on municipal networks, and you know a lot about that, so want to chat with you about that.
Sure.
Okay. So a couple of other quick things. Marjorie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, so good morning, everyone. My name is Marjorie, and I am the executive assistant from ThinkZilla. So we are a marketing and consulting firm. We are located in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Okay. Thank you. Mala, do you have any updates today?
I just wanted to draw the group's attention to the Eyes on the Board Act. This was introduced by Senator Cruz and Senator Schatz. The Eyes on the Board Act has received a lot of attention from bodies like Shelby, and Shelby is the schools, health, libraries, broadband coalition, and several other education boards. The Eyes on the Board Act the purpose of it is to ensure federal funding is allocated for technologies in schools and should be used only for educational purposes. It's talking about misuse of these funds or restricting the use of social media for students, mainly because they want to focus on schools being a learning environment and social media is not a learning environment. The arguments for for this act is that it aims to protect education time. It aims to ensure that during school hours, the productivity of the students is enhanced, and they believe that that will increase the productivity and their academic performance, and it's a responsible use of federal funds. The arguments against it, though, is that it's blocking services that might be useful to the students, because social media, has its pros and cons, and a lot of the students are using YouTube, they're using other social media to post their classroom lessons. They are using it to connect with peers on the topics, and it's kind of viewed as a censorship. So there's a lot of unintended consequences that might come up because of that. And it's encouraging responsible digital citizenship rather than having access restricted outright. So, and especially things like E-rate funding and any other federal funding. Senator Cruz's bill is asking that funding be blocked if the school does not prevent the students from accessing social media. So I think this is something we need to really keep an eye on, and I know definitely Elena and her team will keep an eye out on this, because this is social media policies. But I just wanted to draw your attention to that.
Okay, thank you, Mala. Anything else? Any other questions for Mala? Anthony, are you still here?
Hi, Steve. Yeah, I'm still
Yep.
here.
Anything you want to talk about, Anthony? And just introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, I'm Anthony Costantini with the State Library. I'm the digital inclusion consultant. No huge updates today, but I will say we've just been updating our low-cost internet offers page, and we're still in the process of doing that. Elena sent us some good suggestions, but if there are providers that we don't have available on the page, I'd encourage anyone to reach out to me, and we can see about getting those offers added. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Anthony.
Anthony, did you, I'm
resource.
sorry, did you
Go ahead,
post
Roy.
that website with the providers listed, please?
I can throw that in the chat for you, Rory.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else for today?
Steve, it's Bill. I just,
Bill.
one note for you, if you start to think about that municipal network panel,
Yeah.
I know someone who sits on a board of a charity that I'm involved in, and he is pretty deeply involved in a municipal network in Las Vegas. So he may be someone you might want to reach out to. I can connect you with him.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, if any others who have any suggestions about a panel, we could be one or more sessions for us talking about municipal networks, what they are, pros and cons, different models, and all that sort of thing. So I know, Mark, obviously you're pretty up to date with all that stuff, and Paul, I know you are, and a few others. So with that, anybody else have anything else? Any questions? If not, I do believe that we may be done for today. Thank you all.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
First of
Yeah,
all, I
Paul.
just want to thank everyone for your help with the ACP information that was very, very, very useful. It just really was weird timing, maybe not, that our service ran out for the hotspots for our less fortunate kids that need access. So it has a lot to do with that. I'll be reaching out to the sources that were brought up in the chat. I appreciate that very much. And this was a very eventful meeting. I appreciate it.
And Walt, just FYI, and I know Michelle provided you a good contact, but I was just contacted a couple of days ago from a representative from T-Mobile about their $1 million program or 10 million, whatever it is. And I need to follow up with him also. So I'll keep you up to date with that too.
Yeah, whatever you find out, let me know. I went online and I filled out the form twice and then I called them. They said somebody'd be in contact with me, but I haven't heard anything after a couple of weeks. So I'm going to keep trying because that would be definitely something we're interested in.
Sure. Okay, anything else? If not, I do believe that we are done for today. Thank you all.